Some of the phrases that are still alive and well with us to this very day came from a very dark period in our past. Now, the drugstore that we are in, right here is the big tree where James fell to his death. Right there's the bus, there's the tree. Right here to my left, you see a very small, lonely white gravestone. During the day hours, you can still clearly see James P.
Name's Charlie. I gotta tell you, every time those motor mouth, Peter Pan looking leprechauns come in here. Talk about what I got in my hands here. This here, a pair of boots that belonged to an inmate. Now his name was Steve Johnson. Now this fool was a murdering man. It's on the sign. Yeah, here my story. You got here this. Now, I'm not one to think I'm wrong.
They ask if there's some kind of historical reenactment being done, and we say no. She died around 2 in the morning. To this day, between 2 and 3 a.m., the St. Augustine police still get phone calls from people reporting a young girl waving in traffic here. So if you walk through these city gates, you'll see them approaching through our windshield here. If you walk through these gates late tonight or in the early morning hours, especially if you are by yourself and you feel a heaviness in the air, followed by a very uneasy feeling, look for and greet Elizabeth, the Huguenot Cemetery to the right, the city gates to our left. Now, we are going to go talk about the oldest cemetery here in St. Augustine. It is the Tolomato Cemetery. Some people, like myself, believe it is the oldest wax museum in the United States. We're going in there tonight. But first we're going to talk about the Tolomato Cemetery. Don't be fooled by the fact there's 109 gravestones here. There are different stories about the Tolomato. I'm sure most of you have heard of the show Kindred Spirits. Kindred Spirits have spent many nights here in St. Augustine. Is very restless. You see, the Tolomato Cemetery extended well into this area. We are standing on an old Native American burial ground. Pain and suffering was a way of life. It is seeped in the soil here. Now, during the day, this building served as an apothecary, a drugstore, but after the summer,
Oh yeah. I wonder if they got a little bit of cocaine in there. A little proof. Oh my God. Is that a head? Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. Oh my God.
is it right here? A room that's dedicated to pirates, and more specifically, pirate executions. But we'll get to that story in a moment. Some of the phrases that are still alive and well with us to this very day came from a very dark period in our past. Now, the drugstore that we are in, the drug of the day was a grain-based alcohol combination. You could take this drug and be asleep for hours, 16, 20 hours, almost like you were in a coma. People were not embalmed. They were buried quickly to reduce the spread of disease. Did you know that here in St. Augustine, 84 in our town square, everyone, we had that execution. We were all there that day waiting anxiously for the guest of honor. When finally the executioner arrived, he read the name of the crimes of the guilty.
The ransom! I love my job. Andrew Ransom, you no good varmint! You have been found guilty of the crime of piracy, sentenced to death by garroting. This rope, pulled through the hole in this post, will now be pulled around your no-good, thieving, smiling neck and tied over the back. It will then be twisted and pulled tighter around your no-good English throat until you die. And you'll die by one of 3 ways. Bleeding, suffocation, even more boring, or the crowd favorite, Decapitation!
Decapitation, everyone!
The crowd favorite?
Yay!
Oh, and afterwards? Afterwards, we're all invited back for tea and cookies.
You know, we were all there, that story. Now, it's early in the night, it's still daylight, but be looking up in the trees for James. Take a look at that bust right in the middle of the cemetery. Right here is the big tree where James fell to his death. Right there's the bust, there's the tree. Right here to my left, you see a very small, lonely white gravestone. During the day hours, you can still clearly see James P. Morgan's final resting place. Good night, James. All right, let's talk about that bust. Now, tragedy struck St. Augustine again on June 10th of 1870 when our first bishop, Augustine, Trolley. You see, I have a connection to this next story. In a few moments, we're going to pass by the Martini Bar, the Casablanca. It looked much like it did back in the 1920s. It was a boarding house then. Mrs. Bradshaw owned it. Two of her best patrons were two gentlemen. They would come 2 or 3 times a week, but she would go to make up the room the next morning. They didn't stay in the room. They didn't sleep in the beds. She said the feds were also coming to town, trying to catch the bootleggers, but they also stayed at the Casablanca. They had a signal work out. When the coast was clear and no feds were in town, Mrs. Bradshaw would walk the top. It is still for sale back there tonight. It is called the Haunted Inns and Pubs of St. Augustine. I was reading that book on my flight back. All of the experts have been here. Kindred spirits, ghost hunters, paranormal seekers. They've all been here. But I want to tell you a story that took place in 2010 when some local experts spent the night here. They picked up an EVP, an electronic voice phenomenon, of the often asked question, how many were there? How many official documented hangings took place on the gallows out back? Now we're going back to those gallows tonight, folks. There's a hanging tree out back too. Dozens, maybe hundreds were hung on the hanging tree. But to be hung on the gallows, you had to be sentenced to death by a jury. We're going to play that recording for you right now. It is buried in jail during the day. It's a beautiful building. Like I said, Henry Flagler built this place in 1891. He didn't want people to see a jail. He wanted them to see maybe a boarding house, maybe a restaurant.
Morning, 9 o'clock right now.
Right this way, everyone. Watch your step, folks. Right this way.
Oh, you can feel the free AC.
Now, yeah, the walls are 2 foot thick. Come on in, folks. People are much braver than I am going in themselves back there. That's the woman for there. Come on in, everyone.
Oh, I'm in the wrong area.
Come on in, come on in. That's death row right there. You can see the gallows out back. And anyway, come on in, everybody. Look at this photo as you come in. I want you to take a look at this photo. Like I said, the big guy here is Joe Perry in the hat.
Well, that takes care of that.
Howdy.
Name's Charlie. I gotta tell you, every time those motor mouth, Peter Pan looking leprechauns come in here, they mess it up, y'all. So I'm gonna take it from here. So tonight, on account of me and my boom companions, we're gonna get to it, and I'm gonna tell you about the real story and truth behind this place. And we're gonna start with that madman right there on the wall. Y'all see that Kodiak? Man, I got some stories for y'all. Now, you see the guy there holding them flowers? That there is Sim Jackson before he swung. Now, where do you hear all this mess? I'm going to tell you, Sim Jackson wasn't...
Goodness, I could see myself staying here for a night.
Oh, he does look like him.
Yeah, he does that. Y'all, and where you're all at now just wasn't Gen Pop, it was also our chow hall. So where you're seeing there, that's basically where we have our meals, and they weren't really meals. Jail slop, good old strong coffee to keep us going. But let's talk about what I got in my hands here. This here, a pair of boots that belonged to an inmate. Now his name was Steve Johnson. Now this fool was a murdering man, and the state would justify what they did to him, which is getting him to hang on May 31st, 1912. Now he was supposed to hang by himself, but his 2 best friends, Eugene Baxter and Tom White, decide to go into Jacksonville when he was out helping building his own gallows, they start causing a lot of problems. And I tell you, they tried to rob a guy, went into a store, the guy's name was Alex. They want to run into in this jail or even outside of the jail. You're probably thinking, did he just lock us in here? Yeah. Now let me tell you, his name was George Hawkins. Let me tell you about this one. Now George Hawkins was the most evil man ever to set foot in the St. Johns County jail. Now I'm going to tell you why he was so evil. So he used to stalk peddlers. That's right, peddlers. People who coming into town selling jewelry and trinkets for a living. And he got away with robbing and murder for quite some time until he did it. Now, this is what he would do. He knew these peddlers had one route out of town. They had to go through the stuff, and he's not talking about it, and he knows it's coming out from an inmate, he ain't gonna like it. So come on and follow me. I want to show you outside. You gotta see the gallery, y'all.
First, so I know where you are.
Yeah, come on and follow me. All right. Yeah, hear my story. You gotta hear this. Now, I'm not one to think I'm a